Baruch Hashem, you're a bad Jew.
Shalom.
What if I told you you could fight anti-Semitism, the real Jew hatred that hurts our communities, for just $5? I'm Chaz, my podcast is Bad Jew. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of HLA, and I'm proud to announce that I'm running with Eish Ha'am in the upcoming World Zionist Congress election. The WZC election is your opportunity to shape the direction of our global Jewish community. By registering to vote and supporting Eish Ha'am, you're standing for Jewish unity, education, combating anti-Semitism, and of course, supporting Israel. The link is in the show notes. Don't miss this chance to make your voice heard. Register today and join us in building a stronger and brighter Jewish future together.
You're listening to Bad Jew, the place where there is no such thing as a bad Jew. We are hailing from Israel. So this podcast is no longer called Bad Jew. It's actually now Yehudi Raw. And with me today is Coach Ratner.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. And it's great to have you back on the podcast.
Oh,
I can touch him.
Yeah,
I can.
Last time we filmed over from around the country, around the world, actually.
Around the world, yeah. I realized the whole touching thing probably sounded a little weird, so I'm sorry about that. But it was consensual. Don't worry. So, Coach Ratner, welcome back to Bad Jew.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and
I'm so happy you're here in Israel. It's really exciting to have you.
I know, and you know, to have this be a part of my yeshiva experience, it's a unique opportunity. It's really a privilege. And again, shout out to Oshpiza, shout out to Yosef Bahar, who his policy is we can use the studio so long as we're talking about Torah, and it's honestly a blessing. It's one of the biggest blessings I can ask for.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. So if you guys haven't checked out Oshpiza, please go on the website, give it a donation. Please check it out. Also, just one other housekeeping item. I'm really proud to announce that with Eish, I am running on the Eish Ha'am slate for the World Zionist Organization. If you go to link in my bio and spend $5, you have a chance at effectively fighting Jew hatred, anti-Semitism, because our slate focuses on the things that really matter to the broader Jewish community. And what's amazing about Eish is that for some reason it has this weird reputation about it being for the modern Orthodox community. As a matter of fact, the Eish Ha'am slate is the only slate to have people on the totally secular side to the totally Haredi side in the same place. It's for everybody and anybody Jewish who cares about the real things that Jews need. So please go to eish.com/vote. You can find the link in the bio, and you can go ahead and vote from there. Okay.
All right.
Let's get to the meat. That was the fat. Not that that's not important, but let's get to the meat of the discussion. Okay. So Coach Ratner, people are listening to this episode because we want to know when is the right time to date. Last time you were here to talk about how to find love.
Right.
And you had some really good points about that. If you haven't checked out that episode, you got to check it out. But how to find love is one thing, but when to start seeking it is a whole separate. Is it a skill set? Is it?
Well, I have to tell you, people ask me this all the time.
Yeah.
When am I ready to get married? Should I start dating? And I have to tell you that it is a person-dependent answer. Because I know people. I had a guy who came to me. He's 20 years old. Coach, I want to get married. I'm like, I hate to tell you, but you're not ready. You're 28. You're just not mature enough. And I know people, in my own family who are like 16 who are ready to get married. Like it all depends on the person.
Right.
It all depends if you're able to open your heart and accept someone into your life and you're able to love. But the most important thing is you have to love yourself. Because you don't love yourself, you're going to have a hard time loving somebody else.
Right. So it's not about the age.
It's not about the age.
It's about the maturity. And that maturity is based on how much you love yourself.
I know guys in their 50s who are not mature enough to get married. Right? They're not able to open the heart up and love somebody else.
So is there a way to do a personal litmus test on your ability to start going out?
Yeah, I always say the four hardest words to say are, I forgive you, I'm sorry, I love you, and Worcestershire sauce. Those are the hardest words to say, right? You have to be emotionally available to people. That's what. By the way, I'm talking from a guy's point of view. That's what women are looking for. They want a guy that listens to them and understands them and connect them on a deeper level.
Right.
That's what they want.
Right.
Yeah. And when the guy's not emotionally connected to his wife, she is not going to want to be physical with him.
So what are some of the qualities or things that people can do to start getting and tapping into that deeper sense of connection?
Oh, so really, it's a skill set that needs to be learned.
Okay.
And I think that one of the biggest things, and why I call the 4 phases of love, and the second phase is learning is the research phase, and it's about listening. When I try to set up people in America, and I say, Chaz, I got a girl for you, and you're dating someone. You say, oh, I'm seeing someone. What does it mean when you're seeing someone? It means you're dating, right?
It should.
Well, that's what it does.
Should.
But once you've seen them, what is there left to see? Okay, they have a red dress, a blue dress. There's nothing left to see.
Right.
Do you know my point?
Yeah.
You should be saying, I'm listening to someone, because listening is how relationships are formed.
Interesting.
And, we don't, especially as guys, we stink at listening. We're not that good at it. And it takes practice. Especially in your early 20s, you have no idea, because I remember I was not raised religious and I was dating in the secular world. And I said to my friend, I can't get a second date. He goes, stop talking and just listen. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you think you need to talk and run the conversation. A woman wants to be able to speak and have a guy understand her and listen to her.
Right.
Now, obviously, if she doesn't speak a lot, you have to run the conversation.
Yeah.
But you have to, listening is such an important part of a relationship.
I even just met someone recently, and this person, by the way, was a woman. It was not a date. I want to make that clear. It was not a date.
Right.
It wasn't a date. It was not a date. Ladies, this ring is just, I'm not married. I'm single. Okay. So, but I was speaking with a woman recently, and one thing that I really irked me, right, was she would ask me a question, and I would start answering her question, and then midway through my answer, she would move on to the next subject.
Oh, she wasn't even listening to you.
Right. And I was like, are we just filling the gaps of silence here? What
Yeah.
do you actually care about me as a human? And I realized 9 times out of 10, guys will do this. I think guys are more likely to do this because we're taught from a young age, we got to be dominant in order to be
dominant.
sexy.
We think we have to be dominant and we have to run the conversations.
Right.
There's women aren't looking for answers. They just want a guy that listens to them and understands them. There's a meme out there where a woman, a couple, right? And she has a nail in her head and she's complaining, I have a headache. And he goes, honey, you have a nail in your head. And he goes, stop giving me answers. I just want someone to listen to. Like, they're just looking for someone to talk to and to understand them. That's all they want. They don't look for anything else.
Is that because women, with the way that society is formed, are kind of born into a society that is constantly telling them to do certain things, and because of that, when they come to a guy, when they're met with a guy, they just simply want to have someone listen to them?
It's because they have different needs than we do.
Okay.
They have different needs and desires, and their need is basically to share their life with somebody else. Let me give you an example. You're walking down the street with your wife, right? 2 couples walking down the street, and a woman starts talking to the wife. They talk for like a minute, and the husband goes, "Oh, who was that?" And the wife says, "Oh, I met her last week at Marshall's in the dressing room. Her daughter was having an operation. I want to find out how the operation went." And the husband goes, "Okay." And they keep walking down the street, and a man walks by, and the husband goes, "Hey," and the guy goes, "Hey." And the wife says, "Who was that?" And the man says, "Oh, I gave him my kidney last week." Do you see the difference?
You're right.
Right? We don't have this needed, like you and I can go to a Lakers game, right? And we can
Right.
say 3 words to each other and we have a great time.
Right.
You ever watch like the NBA playoffs, 7th game, in a series, let's say Lakers Bulls, right? And you're watching and 3 rows up, and you see this on TV all the time, 3 rows up from center court, killer seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see 2 women. What are they doing the whole time?
Are they talking to each
They're
other?
talking to each other.
They're talking to each other.
And like, give me a way. There's great things they're talking to each other, right?
Right.
Because they connect to it differently. We each
Right.
like to share information and ideas. They like to connect on an emotional level. Until we can do that, we're going to have a hard time connecting to a woman.
Right. Right.
And we're not ready to date until we're open to basically become vulnerable. I was coaching a guy recently, and he was 35 years old,
Mhm.
and he went on a date with this girl from B'nai Brak. He was observant, she was observant,
Mhm.
and he says to me, "Coach, I want to stay with this girl. I love her. I want to marry her." This is what he tells me. She's 30, he's 35. He goes, "What do I have to do? What do I do?" And I said to him, "You need to show her that you're emotionally available and that you like her. Because you're going to keep going on dates with her. If you don't tell her you like her, she's going to think you don't like her, and that date's going to be over with, right?"
Right.
So I said to him, "You need to show her your vulnerability." So what should I do, Coach? I go, "You're going to tell her on the second date, I really like you." He goes, "No, Coach, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, Coach." I said, "Do you want to marry this girl?" He goes, Yeah. You have to show her you're emotionally available. So we practiced 40 times. I'm not kidding you. I really like you. And he did it on the second date. He got engaged after 4 or 5 dates.
Whoa, Baruch Hashem.
He's married. He's having a kid now. He actually said the marriage is great. He just texted me this week.
Right.
So if you don't show your emotional availability, that relationship's going to have a hard time.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. I was going to say, I think one of the most difficult things for men is to be vulnerable.
Oh yeah, we have a hard time with it.
Why are our walls up so high? Like why are we so wired to, not emotionally make ourselves available to essentially, hide ourselves essentially? Why are we like that?
I was listening to Rabbi Berkowitz's shir today. I was walking down here.
That's the Rosh Hashiva.
Rosh Hashiva, yeah. And he said that in the second line of the ketubah, this is the marriage document that has to be signed in front of witnesses. It says that a man needs to respect his wife. Now we know for a fact that men need to be respected more than loved, and women need to love more than respect. But the reason why a man must respect his wife, because it means you understand her and you listen to her. That's for them as being respected. That means they feel validated when you listen to them, which means you have to listen to their needs. And their needs are not, we don't quite understand them. There's a book called Men Are From Venus and Women Are From Mars.
Right.
And it's true. We have different needs and we have to connect them on those needs. And this is why, for a man, I give advice to men that, when you come up from work, you got to put your phone down, or learning, whatever you do. You got to put your phone down and you got to ask your wife 3 questions because they need to connect you on an emotional level. And you don't have that need. I used to come from work and I want to grab a beer, sit on the couch and watch ESPN highlights. That's what I want to do. I have all these deals in my head and I think coins going on in my head. I don't want to talk to my wife. But if I want to have a passionate relationship, I have to be able to put aside my needs, put the phone down and talk to my wife.
And I imagine though, that could be a very difficult gut reaction for a lot of people.
Oh, it's so difficult that many men rather go mow the lawn. In fact, some rather have a colonoscopy. It's not easy for us to do that.
Right.
A woman all have to understand we only have so much bandwidth to listen.
Right.
I was in Chicago and I was giving a class and a woman comes to me after the class and she goes, Coach, she goes, my husband will sometimes walk out on me when I'm speaking to him. And I said, I've done the same thing. I said, I came home from work one day, I talked to my wife, and it was Hanukkah. And she's talking to me, and I thought in my mind, you know what? I got chocolate glazed donuts in the kitchen, and I walked out on her. She goes, Daniel, because that's my name. She goes, Daniel, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, Ilana, I forgot. I had donuts in the kitchen. And we do the same thing. And just like men have to do a better job at connecting to their wives emotionally, women have to understand we only have so much bandwidth to listen.
Right.
Sometimes you have to talk to us in bullet points.
Right. Does the Torah highlight the nature of men and women to this capacity? And if so, what are some of the techniques and the strategies that the Torah provides that can help guide men to be better, essentially?
I'm going to tell you one thing.
Okay.
There's many things we can talk about, but one of the ideas is that we think, because we're trained like this, that we have to be in love before we get married. And I know that's generally the rule of thumb that most people fall in love before they get married.
Yeah.
But they have to know what love is. But we learn a clue from the story when Eliezer, which is Abraham's servant, is looking for a wife for Yitzhak, that he goes to a well and he prays outside the well, I hope to find a woman for my servant's son, Yitzhak, who recognizes I'm thirsty and also realizes that I have camels who are thirsty. He was looking for 2 characteristics. He was looking for kindness and awareness. And as men, we have to have the awareness of the needs of our spouse. Just like Rivka was aware of the needs of Eliezer and the camel. Because she said, oh, you're thirsty, here's some water. But she could not say anything about the camels, right? And then the Torah tells us very quickly that Yitzhak marries Rivka. And then it says Yitzhak loves Rivka, which means he married her and then he loved her. And you might say, that's crazy. How can people do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's to me.
Let me tell you, my Rebbetzin, Lori Plotnick, her son, went on one date with a girl and they got engaged. He was 19 years old. Now, do you think they were in love?
No, impossible.
No, because
absolutely impossible.
Had clues. He knew who would be good for him in a relationship. If you go into it, and I know this is not done in the secular world, and this is why most relationships fail. Chaz, do you know, if you take all the marriages, you're from LA, right?
Yeah.
Take 100 marriages in the world in LA, not the observant world, just the regular Hollywood, Palisades, Beverly Hills marriages. Out of 100 marriages, how many get divorced?
I think the answer is 50. Statistically, 50% of them.
Okay. Of the ones that are not divorced, how many of them do you think are in passionate, loving relationships?
I would think a small, less than 10%, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you fall in love. You think you're in love together. And you're walking down the aisle, and no one thinks they're going to be a statistic. No one about to get married, standing under the chuppah, or standing in front of their minister, is thinking, oh, we have only a 1 in 5 shot of having a marriage. No one's thinking that.
Right.
What's going on here?
I mean, the thing in the non-observant Jewish world is that it's a custom to date for years, to fall in love in those years, to do, premarital things, if you catch my drift,
Let me explain
beforehand,
If you do not clarify why you're dating, you're going to have a hard time.
So then let's
Let me explain. This is a very important concept. That if you're dating for marriage, you have a certain list of characteristics you are looking for. And by the way, I have a worksheet. My website's down right now. It's coachratner.com. But on my website, which should be, I will have a new website coming up soon, done on WordPress. Very exciting.
Very exciting.
I have, you can download some of my books for free.
Wow.
One is called Never Feeling Loved Again. It's on self-esteem. And my new book coming out soon called Sunscreen Love, I'll also have download for free. There might be one or two books I have for free. And I have a worksheet that I give out that helps clarify the 10 characteristics that are good for you in a relationship. Let me explain to you. When a girl comes to my house and for a Shabbos meal, she goes, "Oh, Coach, I'm ready to get married. Can you help me? Do you know anybody?" I'm not a shadchan, but we do know people, right?
Right.
And I'd love to help get you married when you're ready, right? We have so many women coming through our house.
God willing, yeah.
And I said, "Who are you looking for?" And they have no idea.
Right.
Right. So when you clarify who's good, not what you think you want, because who do you love the most? Yourself. So when you name characteristics that you think you want, you're naming your own characteristics. But you don't need any more of you. You have enough of you. You need someone to complete you as a person. That's like the story of Adam and Eve. When God created Eve, he created a piece of Adam, the woman out of him. It's the person that's going to complete us as the person we're going to marry is going to complete us as a person.
That's an interesting insight, because normally, a concept that we heard in Yeshiva recently, there was a wedding recently. And so we did a whole class on the customs of a Torah observant wedding. And so we went through it piece by piece. What are the elements of it? You have the Kiddush, you have the Kiddush, you have the Ketubah signing. Yeah. You have all these different ceremonies beforehand. It's a beautiful process. But one of the concepts in this process was that when the man gives the woman the ring, which is on the right hand, which is interesting. I didn't know it was on the right hand. I thought it was always on the left hand all my life. I feel like in the secular world, it's always on the left hand. Or even in the American world.
I don't even know these things.
Yeah. So I was like totally blown away when I learned that. And then that's when I learned that's why women don't talk to me, is because I have my ring on my right hand. Anyway, it's King Solomon's ring. It just says Gamze Ya'avor on it. Anyway, so I also learned that as soon as the ring is put on the woman's hand, that it's two halves of a soul combined into one. So it's never two souls going into one to be a couple. There's no such concept as a couple in a Torah observant world. They are now one single soul joined together.
Do you know what the definition of marriage is? According to my Rebbitzin, according to my books,
let's hear it.
The definition of marriage is a merger of two souls.
Right.
Right. So it's two souls coming together to join one. This is why when you look at your wife or your husband as yourself, you would never do anything to insult or yell or hurt yourself. Do you get that?
Yeah.
I look at my wife as my own soul. It's me. We're together. We're not a partnership, because a partnership, although in technicality we do things together to help form our goals, but a partnership generally means I have an idea, you have the money, let's work together to build a business, and then what happens when we succeed? I don't need you anymore, right? And most partnerships, almost majority of them, fail, right? And if you look at it as a partnership, how do you value when a partnership fails because you're not doing your work, or I don't need you anymore? How do you deal with, and then marriage, by the way, it's a big issue, because if your goal in a marriage is to have children, which may all have lots of children, and your children leave the house and they grow up, marriage falls apart. It happens all the time. Marriages fall apart after 20, 25 years. Right. Your purpose for marriage is gone. Right. Let me get back to the clarify why you're dating, because we didn't finish this concept.
Sure.
Just I can talk forever.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of content to give over. If you're dating for marriage, you have a certain set of characteristics you're looking for, and if they don't meet those characteristics, you don't go out anymore. If you go on 3 or 4 dates and they're not filling your needs of that definition, of your characteristics, you just stop dating them. What happens is people don't clarify why they're dating. Now, I'm not going to say it's just an idea, but if you're dating because you don't want to be alone, you want someone to take you to a movie and take you to dinner, or you want a physical relationship, be clear about it. Say, I'm dating just for this relationship, because I don't want to be alone. I want someone to take me to the movies. If you're dating for that purpose, at least you'll know that if you fall into a physical relationship and you think you're in love, you'll understand that this person's not good for me. It's when you don't clarify. Right. But if you clarify why you're dating, at least you'll have a better shot of having a passionate marriage.
Right.
right?
Right.
And most people, if you ask a typical 21-year-old girl, like, what are you dating? Like, I'm talking secular girl, like, what are you dating? Oh, guys like me. I'm cute, and they ask me out, and I don't know. Guys like me. I'm like, okay, are you dating for companionship, or are you dating for marriage? Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. See what happens. They confuse. They get into a physical relationship. They confuse infatuation with love, and they wonder why 10 years later they're in a horrible relationship because they didn't clarify why they're dating. And this is a very common theme why so many people are in bad relationships.
Okay, so the main thing is you need to have clarity.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
yes.
So the main thing is whether you're a man or a woman, you need to have clarity.
Yeah.
For men, I know there's more. Men need to have the ability to listen, as you pointed out before. For women, you need to have clarity, and also what else?
Well, the most important thing for a woman is to respect her husband.
The ability, the ability to respect someone.
I'm telling you, when I coach these women and they're, in their 20s or even 30s, and they said, should I marry this guy? And there's 3 questions we ask before I teach about the 3 questions you must ask before you get married. For a woman, the most important thing is, do I respect him?
Right.
And if she hesitates or she looks away, there is an issue, which means she has to respect what he does for a living. She has to respect how much he learns. She has to respect for his family, everything, his hobbies. Now, are there times or certain things you can get by? Sure. If the person's got a lot of positive qualities or something about him you don't respect, like maybe he's 30 pounds overweight, you don't respect that, you can get by. You can learn to deal with that, right? But in general, a woman must respect her husband because men, the most important thing for us is to feel respected. We think we want to be loved. We do. But we must be respected more than anything else. Your wife doesn't respect you. That relationship is not going to work out.
So then I got a question for you then. If let's pretend there was a person in the room. It could be a man or a woman. Actually, doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman for this. I don't know.
No, let's give it over.
Okay. So let's pretend Jerry is in the room. Okay. Jerry.
It's also a girl's name too,
Oh, there we go. There we go. So it doesn't matter in this case, right? They, I'm being woke now.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Jerry's in the room. Jerry is mid-30s.
Yes.
It's a bit late in life to start.
I got married at 30. I'm Jerry. I got married at 36.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, generally speaking, around that age, there's a lot of anxiety around whether or not they're even going to get married. I've heard people around that age, that timeline, where they start to even question if they're even worthy of marriage at this point.
Sure.
If they were in this room, what would you tell them they need to start doing in order to properly prepare themselves?
Okay, so here's we're going down this wormhole here.
Okay.
Right. So a lot of guys who are let's say in their 40s and 50s, who are not married, who date a lot, they're nice looking guys, they have good jobs, they have money, and like that person going to get married. One of the things is they put up a block to get married, and there's a number of reasons why. I was coaching a guy who was 48, and he had built a very successful software company. Money was not an issue for him. And he was not a bad, nice looking guy, thin, he exercised. And I said to this guy, do you want to get married? And he goes, I do. But she has to be between 34 and 37, 5'4" to 5'6", brown hair, blue eyes, great cook. He gave me this list of characteristics.
Right.
And now is he going to get married? No. But he did get married. You know why? Because he started learning Torah. I introduced him to my rabbi and Rabbi Lord Yanako Palatnik, Rabbi Palatnik. He started learning. And he said he had to open up his heart to allow someone in that maybe he wouldn't have considered otherwise. He was always looking for excuses not to get married. One of the issues is that if you feel like you're not capable of being in a loving relationship, you make excuses up to not get married.
So that's a big...
It's a big thing that they feel that they know internally. And what some people might even say, I don't want to get married.
Right.
It's not they don't want to get married. They know they can't be in a loving, passionate relationship. So they use it as an excuse. Really, deep down, they want to be married.
Right. Right. Of course.
Who doesn't want to be in love? There's no, if you say, oh, I don't want to get married, it's because you're not capable of it.
Right.
Or you feel like you're not capable of it.
And it is terrifying, by the way, to open yourself to vulnerable.
I remember when I had to get engaged to my wife.
Yeah.
I proposed in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
Four Seasons Hotel.
Okay.
Remember Four Seasons? I don't know if you've been to Santa Barbara before?
Yeah, I've been to Santa Barbara, yeah.
So I went to Santa Barbara, and I remember I had a ring with me, and I was terrified. And I had one of my friends, Christy at the time, Christy Pemble. She told me, Daniel, do not chicken out. Do not chicken out. Do not chicken out. And I had her in my head saying, do not chicken out. And I asked I was scared. I was terrified because I was a happy 35-year-old single man. I decided in my life, I'm going to be happy whether I get married or whether I don't get married. And I decided then I was going to be happy no matter what.
Right.
And I was a happy person. I didn't need, and by the way, a lot of women, more than men, are unhappy with themselves. This is why I wrote a book on self-esteem. That if you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody else. And they feel like that if they meet a man and get married, that'll make them happy.
Mhm.
And then it works out very well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But you said something big that I just want to go back to for a second. Torah, as you've pointed out, and all of its grandiose and its mastery and all of its literature and all the commentary on it is the key to opening up the heart.
For a Jewish person, the reason is because the Torah is not a guidebook. It's not a book about men walking through sand dunes in the desert wearing togas. It is a guidebook for life. We learn lots of it. There's lots of things in the Torah that help us to have passionate, loving relationships. And if we don't open our heart, and one of the reasons we have something to guide us in our life, we have Torah as a basis for our life. It guides us through Shabbat. It guides us on how to have laws of family purity. It guides us on how to, obviously, I've learned one of the things I've learned about myself, and because I used to, a lot of people get angry. They have anger.
Sure.
And it's not good in a relationship, right? I look at anger as idol worship. Because when someone gets angry, or even they criticize, you're saying, God, you made a mistake, and God doesn't make mistakes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So
a lot of people just resort to anger in general. They're so used to it
because they have no control of their emotions.
Right.
Right.
So lack of control of emotions. Yeah.
And my wife said something before we got married. Think before you speak. When you get married and you say words like hate or divorce, those words are hanging around. And so it takes training. You have to train yourself. You should start when you're dating that you don't react. When your wife does something, your husband does something you don't like, instead of reacting, when you react and say something, it's going to come across as criticism, or it's going to come across that you're attacking them. And no one likes to be attacked or criticized. And so what you have to do is you have to think before you speak. It's like, you know what? There's a time to say something, a place to say something, and a way to say something, and maybe even a person to say something.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't have to come from you. And you have to think to yourself, why do I want to attack the person, me, my own soul? I'm not going to attack my own soul.
Right.
So I want to wait until I can think about it and say it. And if I have to say something in a nuanced way that's loving.
And to tie that back to God, to explain why that is idol worship, you're saying that because...
Because when you get angry,
Yeah.
you're saying, God, the world's not working the way it's supposed to be. You made a mistake, and God doesn't make mistakes. You get that point?
Yeah.
And even when you criticize,
Right.
I have a whole thing, the whole sunscreen love is all about criticism, right?
Mhm.
When you criticize, you're basically saying, God, this person made a mistake, and I have to tell them how to do it the right way.
Right.
Right. And everything is a learning. Everything in you happens to your life is for you to learn and for you to grow from, and you to become a better person.
Fascinating. So, okay. I think that's really well said. I want to end on a thought that I recently actually learned in yeshiva recently pertaining to that marriage that just took place, that whole class that we just did on marriage. So under the chuppah, the woman circles around the man 7 times.
Mhm.
And this is to commemorate how the Romans circled around Jerusalem 7 times before. No.
I don't think that.
No.
7 brachas.
See, I made a mistake. Before the Jews entered Israel, they circled around the Canaanites, right?
I've never heard of that. It's the 7 brachas we say at weddings.
There's 7 brachas. I know that the Sheva brachos. Yeah,
it's just a custom.
Hold
it's
on.
not halacha.
No. Hold on one second. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna get it right here. Hold on one second. Let me find this here. I'll edit this out. Paul, if you're listening, edit this out. Hold on. Foundations.
Am I talking too much?
No. You're doing great. You're doing awesome.
I can go on forever. So,
No.
$5 podcast.
We'll wrap this up soon.
Yeah.
So, under the chuppah, under the chuppah, a canopy that is open on all 4 sides, just as Abraham and Sarah's tent was. Technically, the newlyweds' first home together. Its openness represents the unconditional kindness. The jewelry is worn under the chuppah to signify. At the start of the ceremony, the bride will circle around the groom 7 times to show that just as the universe was created in 7 days, they are symbolically building their new world together. Also, just as the Jewish nation was commanded by God to encircle the city of Jericho upon entering the land of Israel in order to conquer it, so too shall the Kala circle the Chazan. Right. Okay. That's what it is. So, okay. One more. So Paul, we're going to cut right here. So one idea that I want to end this podcast in is an idea that I was just taught in yeshiva that I think is just super fascinating. And that is that when the Jews and the Israelites were at war with the city of Jericho, we circled the city 7 times as commanded by God before we took it down with Jericho's trumpets and that whole entire battle that became so famous. And what's super interesting about that in its perspective and its relationship to marriage is that the woman circles around the man 7 times to lower his walls of
Oh, nice.
of personal security.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And also the 7 circles also represents
7 days of
the
creation.
7 days of creation as well. 7 is a very important number in Judaism. So it was just super fascinating lesson to learn, the idea of breaking down walls that way a man can be vulnerable. So there's another essential piece to the Torah hinting the need for men to be vulnerable in order for the marriage to work.
Rabbi Berkowitz said on this podcast that men need to be like women.
Men
need to be like women who need to be vulnerable. They can cry. They can open their feelings, share their feelings.
Right. I have one final question for you.
Yes.
Am I ready for marriage?
I think you're very mature.
Okay.
And I think that you will be very soon. I think you need to cook a little bit in yeshiva, but I think you're definitely going to be very soon ready for marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I think you're, I mean, it's my feeling, I know you not super well, but well enough that I think that emotionally that you're healthy. And I think your parents were together and they're together, like, right?
I think my parents did a pretty good job with it.
Right.
Yeah.
They did. They did a good job.
Mom, Dad, shout out to you.
I think you'll do
Yeah.
great. I think without you just need a little bit of wisdom and you'll have a passionate, loving relationship with one person.
Ladies, coming soon to a theater near you.
I want to set you up, baby.
That'd be.
I would love to.
That'd be amazing.
Let's girl from Aish or Neve or
Back home before I came here, Richard Horowitz, who is a big name back in the Aish LA community. Also, if you go to the Aish Torah, you'll see his name all over because he's a major
Dick
donor.
Horowitz.
Richard Horowitz, amazing guy. He told me in a couple of months when you get to yeshiva, that's when you should submit your resume to Shotgun. I'm thinking to myself, I have so much to learn. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not ready for dick. I can tell you right now, I've learned so much just in 3 weeks that I'm here. It's insane how
It's
much growth
crazy,
I have.
isn't it?
And who knows except for God, right? Only God knows when I'll be ready for marriage. But wow, what a cool idea. The idea of getting this close to a whole new future where I can unite with.
They're going to be lined up out the door for you. I have no problem that we're going to find an unbelievable, beautiful, healthy, emotionally healthy Sudeikis that's going to really knock you over.
God willing, I hope that's true. Amen. Coach Ratner, thank you for being on Yehudi Ra.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to the listeners for tuning into this podcast. I hope you gained something from it, and I hope you were able to figure out when is the right time for you to date. You need to check out Coach Ratner. Where is the best place to access your content and also be able to reach out to you should they want to figure out when they're ready to date?
So you can find me at coachratner.com. I just redid my website. Also the Coach Ratner podcast on Spotify and Apple. And I do Shabbatones in America. I'll be in Cleveland. I was just in Miami. And I'm also here at Aish Torah in the old city of Jerusalem. I give public classes at least 3 times a week, sometimes more, on dating, relationships, marriage, self-esteem, parenting. I have a whole slew of classes, spiritual growth, spiritual motivation, and success. I keep going, but
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Coach Ratner, thanks for being on the podcast. We'll see you on the next episode
see you next time.
of Bad Jew.
Shalom.